On this episode of Bird's Eye View, I sit down with CEO and founder Shawn Whistler of Whistler Media Group. Shawn and his team are based in Oklahoma, specifically the Oklahoma City market and Tulsa markets. They manage and grow a billboard plan with hundreds of digital billboard locations and traditional static faces. In this interview, I sit down with Shawn and we talk about being purpose-driven, how to be revenue growth partners with your clients, and playing the long game. Enjoy.
This isn't CNN or Dateline or nothing like that. Let's just talk, man.
All right.
I'm just a huge fan of your business, huge fan of your story, and I want other people to know it, man. So catch us up. Whistler Media, maybe an introduction, right? If somebody were to walk off the street right now, walk up to you and say, "Hey, who's Shawn?"
I'm a believer. I'm a husband. I'm a dad.
Yeah.
And I'm a business owner. So
Yeah. Right on.
Yeah.
Whistler Media. When did you start Whistler Media?
So we started in April of 1996. So just celebrated 27 years.
Right on. Well, congrats.
Yeah.
What was it about the out-of-home business that attracted you? So I know you're an entrepreneur. I know you're forward thinking. I think the results speak for themselves. But what was it back in 1997 that attracted you to the out-of-home business?
I worked my way through college with 3 small businesses, and I had vending machines in all the sorority and fraternity houses, had a janitorial service, and did construction remodels.
Yeah.
And slept through class to pay for it.
Yeah.
So I was always been a applied knowledge guy, and so I had a bachelor's in construction management through civil engineering, and I had a minor in marketing, and I'd written a thesis on mass media. But candidly, I had my eye on out of home since I was about 14. I always planned in college to get into. I wanted to build multifamily apartments, own and operate, and shamefully, my first billboard I thought of as multifamily without toilets. And so I did it was pre-personal computer. So April of 96, my girl had 2 years of college left. And so she was the only person on the Oklahoma State campus that had a personal computer when I was there. And so I borrowed hers and bought a real estate forms book. And my first advertiser was on a landlord-tenant agreement.
Wow.
And so I went back at the 1-year anniversary, and I always tell everybody it was the drive of shame. And so I visited with my first client, and he owned a Schlotzsky's Deli.
Schlotzsky's.
He sat in the corner of town that Stillwater kind of sits at a 90 degree. It's about an hour and 15-minute drive from Oklahoma City and an hour and 15-minute drive from Tulsa. But he sat in the corner of the southwest corner of town. So if you commuted in from OKC or Edmond, you knew he was there. But the other 50% of the population that commuted from Tulsa had no reason to make it out to that corner of town.
Yeah.
Well, Schlotzsky's in Tulsa were all corporate owned. They had a much more advanced menu and marketing. And so when there's a 5-mile exit coming in off the turnpike, and we had him on a board there. And so when the Tulsa 50% of the student and commuter population saw that, he had a big spike. And so when I went to renew my landlord-tenant agreement, I got tears of gratitude. And he said, "Shawn, I've been here 14 years and you grew my sales by 43%.
Wow.
And I remember thinking, that day I had the drive back to Tulsa, which was my drive of shame. And I remember thinking my creator didn't put me here to be self-serving, to create a business model that was self-serving and to just rent people some space. And so that was the day I decided my mission was going to be to improve the lives of the people I serve, starting with our business owners, and to serve them as a revenue growth partner, to help them consistently develop new customers and achieve their revenue goals. And so that was really the 1 year mark was the beginning.
Yeah.
And so that was, about April of 97. And I'm super proud at 27 years. We still serve our very first 2 clients, and we've got about 1,000 displays in Oklahoma City and Tulsa. So
I love that story.
yeah.
3 words you used: revenue, growth, partner.
Yes.
That to me says everything about.
It is our biggest competitive advantage. So in Oklahoma City and Tulsa, the publicly traded guys, which we like to refer to as the C students, there's some backstory on that, it's very much like a glorified lease agent, or that's right, because you used to work for the C students. I'm sorry, John.
Cut that.
We always really like when someone says, well, how is Whistler significantly different from the other out-of-home providers? And I think one of the easiest ways to describe that is, for most new client leads that come in, it's very customary for consumer behavior. There's a product you're interested in, ? And what is the price? You're curious what that looks like. And in the publicly traded world, then they get the commodity product price response. And so while they are really kind of in the 2 metros, they'll have sales forces of 30 account reps in both offices. And then we work with a TV station that's got a small digital network in both metros, more just central business district, but same way, they've got 30 account reps in both metros. And so it's the comparison between working with the self-serving salesperson or glorified lease agent renting space, as opposed to working with our team that's very much a revenue growth partner. And so we invested our human capital not so much in the house of self-serving sellers, but rather the high competency team whose job it is to build their brand, to drive direct search traffic, and their job is to generate an abundance of high quality leads, web traffic to people's sites, call traffic to their phone, foot traffic to their door. And so when we help people achieve their new customer and revenue goals, we earn the right to serve them long term. So I tell clients that really we believe, our mission's to improve their lives, to serve as a revenue growth partner. So we try to provide them everything they need to reach their target audiences, to generate an abundance of high quality leads. And we provide their teams the tools and training to be more effective at converting those leads in their customer experience and professional conversion training and new paying customers. And then lastly, using data to be able to measure and improve results.
Yeah.
And so we have a proven process. And so our human capital is in that team that implements really serving as a revenue growth partner. We don't need 30 account reps per metro because we still serve our first 2 clients 27 years later. Meanwhile, we see them, bring them in the front, pipe them out the back. And we'll see the private sector, when they buy out of home with the publicly traded guys, has a very high failure rate. They're great space renters. And so, whole different model. So early on, we moved from Stillwater, Oklahoma to Northwest Arkansas, which is home of Walmart World Headquarters. So when you walk out the front door in Bentonville of the Walmart headquarters, we built 2 superstructures on the neighboring north and south parking lot properties. And so, and then from there we grew, when we had our first daughter of 8 children, we moved from we were living in Fayetteville, Arkansas at the time, but we ran from kind of the University of Arkansas in Fayetteville down to Bentonville.
Yeah.
And, family is definitely one of my big purposes. And so, I found myself in Tulsa with our new baby daughter about 3 times a week, and, had the opportunity to acquire some property. We knew Bass Pro was coming, and I optioned all the land on the 2 properties that were large enough to house them. And the Saturday they announced, we locked and loaded on those options on Monday and acquired property and built our first billboards in the Tulsa market in the Broken Arrow suburb.
Yep.
And then shortly after that, we had a small acquisition where we picked up 12 boards, and then we just kept through development growing from there. And so, but, still kind of work on that same principles. We were probably about 6 years into our business And really kind of two sectors emerged as our largest clientele. We had a giant kind of group of clients that were private practice doctors, orthodontists, dentists, urgent cares, all the way down to veterinary clinics. And then we had a large sector of service-based companies, heat and air, plumbing, electricians. And what the two have in common was 100% of their new business came through the internet and the telephone. So we started coding websites 21 years ago. And then we've been a certified Google partner for probably 16 and a half years or so. And then, we got blueprint status with the company now known as Meta. So we do a lot of Facebook and Instagram ads. So today, when someone hires Whistler to target their ideal customer profile, it's kind of omni-channel. We can reach them out of home with billboards and their commute. We can reach them in home with direct mail. We can reach them online with Google ads, and we can reach them on social media with Facebook and Instagram ads.
I hope people are taking notes from the course we're being taught right now for Shawn Whistler. I love this story. The legacy and perhaps what you're trying to build it reeks of long-term approach, right?
Right.
And I mean that as a compliment.
Yeah.
You guys are playing the long game, and to have advertisers, your first two advertisers still with you after 27 years, the secret ingredient here is, I'm going back to these three words, revenue growth partner. You're on their side of the fence.
Indeed.
And obviously speaks to, as I'm observing, the success that you guys have had. And this character trait that you guys have as a company starts with leadership and is discipled, if you will, out to your team. How many folks do you have at Whistler Media?
We have 20.
20 folks.
So, and I think, on that note of, I think it's about being purpose-driven, right? Like, I believe we have an obligation and responsibility to make other people's lives better. And, as a team leader, then your goal is to surround yourself with people that are valued, but also, are we really equipped to serve clients if we're not first taking care of our team?
Yeah.
And so, so always was very goal driven, but kind of going back to that 1 year anniversary, I remember thinking, hey, what is a self-serving goal worth if we're not that's kind of like the what, but if we don't get to the foundation of the why, are we doing what we do?
Wow.
Where we're purpose driven. And so, what are the meaningful reasons that drive us to achieve at a high level? And I think along the way, I probably found that I wasn't self-serving enough to be able to achieve at a high level. So for, it helps me, it empowers me that when we have a big vision of greatness and we set really large goals or objectives to back it up with those meaningful reasons or that purpose. And, we all have families that we want to take care of our people, and we all have
growing
churches.
families with eight kids.
That's right. And we all have churches we want to support. And then our communities have hungry, sick, poor, unborn. And so those things are definitely something that drive me to want to achieve at a high level. And I think, hey, if you've been blessed, with my children, I talk about, it's not so much that they're not our assets. We've just been entrusted to be a steward of them. And so I kind of talk out of both sides of my mouth on that. But so on one hand, they're not ours. We've been entrusted to be a good steward of them. And so, again, keeping everybody purpose driven. But if you've been blessed with responsibility or then I think more is expected of us. And so I think we need to be good role models. I think we need
absolutely
to and make sure not to get credit, but, to serve people without taking credit for it. And so I think, on one hand, that's kind of on the other, with my children, this last summer, my oldest four all interned at Whistler. And so my daughter,
family business.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
So I'm excited about that and grateful that they're interested. I'm not pushing, whatever they're passionate about, I want to get behind and support. Yeah. But my oldest daughter is in a multimedia program through journalism broadcast at Oklahoma State. And she's very much a storyteller like yourself. And
I dabble.
So if you get a call one day from a Whistler daughter on an internship. She may knock on your door, but she's very much a storyteller. She's a writer, a very accomplished wedding photographer and videographer. And so she helped produce both sales videos and training videos for me this past summer. And then my son, Alec, he did a gap year and he just got a swim scholarship in Florida. But
congrats to him.
The last 2 years, he worked on our business development team. So we have a little process where we'll research business owners. In our 2 metros, we're in 42 suburbs or bedroom communities or corridors. And so our business development team will basically break out in preferred industries, and then they'll skip trace the owners, let's say heat and air companies in all 42 communities, where we'll have their cell phones, their emails, their office numbers. So, and then from there it gets handed off, or we'll lead nurture. And then from there it gets handed off to, we cold call an appointment set.
Armed with information.
That's right. And so, but our big lead indicator on revenue, I always say, like, when you get the scoreboard of what you sold, it's too late. That's the lag indicator. You can't change that. It's already over. So what we found was our single biggest indicator of achieving revenue goals on the self-serving side of the fence was taking control of our statistical probability. And so the researched, lead nurtured, and scheduled and kept appointments is our biggest indicator of our revenue. We know exactly how many it takes to get the lag indicator to hit that revenue goal.
I sense a book to be written about this.
Well, they're all like, it's just, continued. We just try to improve. But,
that's right.
But Alec went through those processes, and by, he was about 2 years in. And so he went, I remember the first week he did cold calling for us. On a Friday, my wife cornered me behind closed doors, and she said, "What did you do to my son, my baby?" And I remember, I didn't do anything. She said, "I
teaching him to fish."
Right, that's it. That's it. And so she said, "I need you to understand that maybe not everybody is wired like you." And my response was, "Baby, indeed, not everybody is, but I can assure you, he is."
Yes.
So we got to the second week. It was 4:00 on Friday. He was calling on, which I think is the toughest category. He was calling on dentists. And he
already getting touched.
Very, very insulated gatekeepers.
Yes.
Who are fierce and sometimes not very kind. And
who are almost employed to steer people away.
Right. Yeah, they are.
That's their full-time job.
So we had our kind of victory speech at 4:00 that, if we fall down 499 times, we stand up 500. We don't ever give up.
That's right.
And so we talked about our purpose, why we're doing what we're doing. We talked about our approach. We role played it quickly, got went through some inspiration to get the attitude in the right state of mind.
Yeah.
He got back on there, and 3 calls later, he had his hands in his air with his first dental appointment. And the guy was grateful that he'd reached out and had been praying for somebody like us with that type of solution to reach out to him. And then Alec had the bug. So never looked back. So
I'm encouraged by that story because yes, you're in the out-of-home business, but you're also in the problem-solving business.
Oh, 100%.
I'm assuming location, price point, nothing that was talked about. What was discussed was, hey, what are your problems? Let's be a scientist here. What are you dealing with?
Absolutely.
Let's see this big problem.
Yeah.
Let's discover if we're that solution for you. But if not, no harm, no foul. We're on your side of the fence here. And whatever your problem is, we're going to either encourage you through that problem or refer you to someone who we believe can help you.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
absolutely.
So I like to ask this question. You've been in the out-of-home business since 1997. 96, excuse me. Entrepreneur since 14, I think you said earlier. You got bit by the out-of-home bug when you were 14.
Yep.
If a 14-year-old Shawn Whistler or 13-year-old Shawn Whistler decided to come to the IBO and he were to approach you and say, "Hey, Shawn, I'm thinking about getting in the billboard business," what piece of advice would you give Shawn? I'd probably play the clip of you talking earlier about being purpose driven. That's probably what that's what I would play
Yeah, I
for.
think so. I mean, that'd be my
Getting the mind right? Getting the heart behind the pursuit.
I think
right.
so. And still, sometimes like one of the things I love about IBO is the collaboration. Like every time I'm here, I leave with little amazing snippets of education from somebody different.
Yeah.
And
From folks all over the country.
Yeah. And we even have people from Australia now, Mr. Bishop.
Yeah.
That really had an amazing collaboration at our last one. But I had lunch yesterday with a gentleman by the name of Ed Robinson.
Yes.
And Ed said, I don't build businesses, I build teams. And I really love that. That was good.
2 years ago, I'm glad you brought up Mr. Robinson. 2 years ago at a show, I walked up to Ed Robinson, hey, I'm John from Steinberg. This is what I do. And he said, okay, good to meet you, John. He said, I'd like to give you some advice because on young entrepreneur, I'm a sponge. I'm soaking up as much as I can. So I'll give you 3 pieces of advice. And so I'm crediting Ed Robinson with this right here on camera.
Awesome.
3 things you need to be concerned about. The first thing and your priority are your people. That's who you focus and pour into.
That. Yeah.
Second thing are your suppliers and your vendors. Take care of your people first, your suppliers second. Worry about your customers last. Because if you've equipped your people, you've been good partners to your suppliers, treating them right, they'll take care of your customers for you.
I love that.
And that was a small little snippet of a leadership crash course from Ed Robinson. I've taken that and I've tried to the best of my abilities apply that to my businesses and specifically Steinberg.
I love that. And I think so. The answer to your question, what advice would I give a young entrepreneur that was thinking about getting into any business? I think number one, you have to have a vision of greatness. So the result you're focused on, you can't achieve something if you don't have an absolute clarity on precisely what you want to achieve and absolute certainty that you are going to achieve it. I think the certainty comes from them being purpose driven.
Yeah.
Thinking about, what is the purpose or my purpose or your purpose in this world in terms of when I do something, what are the meaningful reasons that are driving me to achieve at a high level? How am I going to improve other people's lives when I achieve this result? And I think lastly, it's really like the massive action plan. And I think, which is what's cool about the IBO is there's always success leaves tracks and there's always others among us that have already achieved at a high level. Mr. Robinson would be a great example. And so when you don't have to reinvent the wheel. You can condense decades into days when you model what the best of the best are doing. So I think having good mentors, but then when you equip yourself with that knowledge, all the knowledge in the world is worthless without execution. So having that massive action plan and it's not so much that you build Rome in a day, but if you can perfectly place one building block one day at a time, you wake up and what the heck happened 27 years later?
Yeah, exactly.
So that'd be my advice is, have a result you're focused on, a big vision of greatness, having a purpose or meaningful reasons, have absolute clarity and certainty on why, you're doing what you're doing. And then the how, use mentors to model or condense decades into days and take massive action.
Yeah.
You don't have to. And I think that the billboard business is interesting because, I recently had somebody tell me in Oklahoma City, I saw your new digital billboard on the Broadway Expressway. And I had inside to laugh because I'm thinking, 11 years, 3 lawsuits involving one of those publicly traded groups that contest every step of the way, a rezoning, a special exception, and maybe an Old Testament miracle. So, but I think just that being relentless in your pursuit, if you're purpose driven, is not whether I can or I can't. They just had a panel in there that were talking about some of the obstacles and they were getting heavy into legislation. And I think one gentleman hit the mark, which was, really, your government is people, right? Your community is people. And so, but if you can have that relentless pursuit where you're really purpose driven, you'll knock a mountain down to find your way to victory.
Yeah.
And so one of the barriers to entry and out of home is it is an Old Testament miracle sometimes to get all the stars to align on all the regulations on your federal, state, and local requirements. At the same time, one of the most amazing aspects about out of home is the barrier to entry is so great that your market share is protected. And so when you're starting, without processes and without people, that can feel like a mountain that you're climbing.
Yeah.
But like anything in life, there's a proven process. Success leaves tracks. So if you can scale with repeatable processes and keep placing one building block perfectly, one day you can wake up and find your way in the victory lane, hopefully. But it's a journey. It's not a destination.